The underground fight club hummed with energy, a hidden gem tucked beneath the city streets. The dim lighting cast shadows over the ring, where sweat and determination mixed with the unmistakable scent of adrenaline. It was a battleground for the bold, a place where reputations were forged through blood and grit. Here, fighters of all backgrounds came in search of glory, their shared hope mingling with a primal instinct for survival. The crowd was electric, drawn into the raw spectacle as they cheered on their favorites and jeered at their rivals. In the center of this chaotic theater stood King, a figure wrapped in bravado. He was brash and boastful, his sharp tongue slicing through the air like a blade. His success had turned him into a local legend, undefeated and unapologetic about his dirty tactics. The audience hung on his every word, eagerly anticipating his next move both inside and outside the ring. But amidst this fervor, an unexpected figure appeared quietly at the back. Mark Wahlberg, an enigma cloaked in understated confidence. As Wahlberg scanned the sea of fighters and fans, he didn't resonate with the usual bravado that flourished in this world. Instead, he had come with purpose, though his presence seemed incongruous among the hardened fighters. His eyes darted around as if searching for something or someone hidden among the chaos. Unbeknownst to King, who continued to ridicule him as a relic of Hollywood softness, Wahlberg's true intention was not to fight, but to investigate. The shifting dynamics within the club became palpable as King fixated on his perceived prey. He hurled insults like weapons, trying to provoke a reaction from Wahlberg and feeding off the crowd's jeers. But with each taunt that erupted from his lips, he remained blind to the depths lurking within Wahlberg's quiet demeanor, a contained ferocity ready to emerge should the situation escalate beyond mere words. And when it did, no one would anticipate the drastic shift awaiting them all. King strode confidently around the ring, his presence magnetic and heavy with the tension of raw bravado. He thrived amidst the spotlight, unafraid to flaunt his abilities and the impressive record that had propelled him to the top of this underground world. The fighters around him recognized the aura. It was that of a man who knew he could either inspire respect or instill fear, and he reveled in both. His reputation was built on more than just brute strength. His trademark was an aggressive and unscrupulous fighting style that made him a formidable opponent. With a voice that blended sarcasm and bravado, King orchestrated the crowd's anticipation. Each boast woven into his taunts was crafted to maintain his status among peers and followers alike. Fans cheered loudly, drawn in by his charisma and the thrill of danger he represented. They thrived on the chaos he created, united behind a fearless kingpin who embodied the very essence of underground fighting culture, dangerous, ruthless, and unapologetic. From the ropes he surveyed the ring, an emperor presiding over his domain, when his gaze fell upon Wahlberg. To King, this unfamiliar figure was merely a remnant of days gone by, an actor playing a part rather than a player in this gritty arena. Chuckling to himself, King began to draw comparisons between Wahlberg's apparent frailty and his own invincibility, relishing the thought of tearing down anyone daring enough to challenge him. As Wahlberg remained silent in the corner, perhaps considering his next move, King seized the opportunity to amplify his taunts. He called him Hollywood soft, baiting the crowd into laughter, empowering himself further through their cheers. This was his domain, a place where every word carried weight, and every jab struck deeper than mere blows. But beneath that glimmering surface of bravado lay a flicker of danger, the kind that came from underestimating an opponent who harbored secrets of their own. As King basked in the glory of his reign, he failed to notice the shifting tides around him. Wahlberg wasn't there for the show. He was gathering information for something much larger. And as the evening unfolded, it became clear that not everyone would leave that ring unscathed. As the frenzy of the Fight Club unfolded, Mark Wahlberg's entrance was almost cinematic in its contrast. He slipped through the crowd like a shadow, his demeanor quiet and composed against the backdrop of roaring voices and raucous cheers. Dressed in simple attire that belied his status, he evoked an air of understated strength that caught the attention of those nearby. While the members of the audience were stirred by King's bravado, a murmur spread through them at the sight of Wahlberg. The juxtaposition between the loudmouthed fighter and this enigmatic figure stirred curiosity and skepticism alike. Some whispered among themselves, questioning what brought a Hollywood star to such a gritty den of combat. Was he here for a token appearance, seeking to reclaim past glories, or was he merely searching for a thrill? His calm presence unsettled certain patrons. They felt an instinctual wariness towards someone who seemed out of place yet profoundly aware of his surroundings. As they observed him scanning the ring, they could sense a tension brewing beneath the surface. Wahlberg's eyes darted between the fighters and the onlookers, intent on unearthing what lay hidden within this chaotic domain. While King basked in the crowd's approval, Wahlberg remained an island of quiet observation, as if waiting for a critical moment to surface from obscurity. The energy was palpable, every eye fixated on King, but many began to wonder about Wahlberg's true purpose. King, engrossed in his own spotlight, failed to recognize that Wahlberg's stillness held a profound strength, a strength forged not only through physicality, but through introspection and resilience. While King reveled in mockery, Wahlberg stood as a testament to dignity and focus. The atmosphere shifted subtly, as whispers turned into speculative glances. People began to wonder if perhaps this seemingly detached outsider had motives beyond mere entertainment. What no one noticed yet was how their fates were intricately intertwined in this gritty arena, where bravado clashed with silent resolve, soon to erupt into a reckoning no one could have predicted. As the energy of the crowd surged, King turned his attention to Wahlberg with a glint in his eye, eager to exploit what he perceived as weakness. He leaned slightly over the ropes, a smirk dancing on his lips, and launched into a tirade of ridicule. "What's this? The great Mark Wahlberg gracing us with his presence? Hollywood's washed-up prince thinks he can just stroll in here." His voice dripped with sarcasm, echoing through the room like thunder. The audience responded with a mix of laughter and cheers, feeding into King's booming bravado. He basked in the moment, invigorated by their excitement while gesturing dramatically. "Look at you. A relic from the silver screen dressed for a night out instead of a fight. What are you even doing here? Shouldn't you be saving an entire city from aliens or something?" His words cut through the air, sharp as a sword, aimed directly at Wahlberg. Each taunt was designed to belittle the actor's status, a calculated maneuver to establish dominance within the ring and rally the crowd behind him. "You think you're tough because you've thrown some punches for a movie role? Well, let me tell you something. You're just another soft target in this world where titles don't matter." His scornful laughter resonated with many, twisting them further into his narrative that portrayed Wahlberg as irrelevant and outdated. But amidst the ridicule, Wahlberg stood unwavering, absorbing each insult without flinching. In contrast to King's rowdy performance, he remained composed, embodying a quiet strength that only fueled King's arrogance. The more King shouted, the more he revealed his own desperation to maintain control. The desperate measures of a man who understood that power often thrived on intimidation. Yet what King failed to recognize was that beneath Wahlberg's calm exterior lurked an intensity born from experience and purpose, qualities that history had taught him could dismantle bravado with surgical precision. As tension mounted in the air and anticipation rippled through the crowd, both men were poised on the threshold of confrontation, one emboldened by mockery and the other driven by deeper motives that had yet to surface. The stage was set for an explosive clash that would redefine their fates within this unforgiving arena. As King continued to revel in his mockery of Wahlberg, the atmosphere in the Fight Club thickened with tension. But beneath the surface of Wahlberg's calm exterior lay a mission that transcended the petty taunts and bravado of the ring. He was not merely a spectator, he was on a crucial search for someone vital to his investigation, a key figure hidden among the fighters, cloaked in anonymity amid the chaos. Wahlberg's mind raced with images of the person he sought, someone whose presence could change everything. He had spent weeks following leads and gathering information, inching closer to uncovering a web of deceit that extended beyond this underground venue. This Fight Club, an arena of blood and sweat, served as a facade for darker dealings, and Wahlberg knew that within its gritty confines lay more than just bruised egos and broken bones. While King continued to prance around, absorbed in his own theatricality, Wahlberg's focus was razor-sharp. His intuition told him that the individual he needed was not far from the ring, perhaps even standing in it. He had seen glimpses of this figure in his research, someone connected to both powerful allies and dangerous adversaries. It was a personal mission that drove him deeper into this murky world. He needed answers, and this was the place to find them. The crowd erupted around him, cheers interspersed with jeers directed at King, but Wahlberg filtered out the noise. His eyes scanned every fighter and face, searching for familiar traits or movements. He had trained himself to read situations instinctively, learned from years on sets where every detail mattered. What might appear as distractions were clues. Each fighter carried stories carved into their skin from countless matches fought. Yet as Wahlberg concentrated on unearthing the truth hidden among the fighting chaos, he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched too. The dynamics within the club were shifting. King, oblivious to Wahlberg's true purpose, would soon learn that underestimating him would lead to unforeseen consequences, not just for himself but for everyone involved. As Wahlberg prepared for what lay ahead, an impending confrontation loomed large. It would be a decisive moment where loyalties would be tested and truths unveiled. The intensity in the fight club escalated as King pressed on with his relentless taunts, each jab designed to provoke a reaction from Wahlberg. The crowd, initially entertained by the exchanges, now buzzed with a palpable tension, fully aware that something significant was brewing beneath the surface. King leaned on his bravado. Sensing that he had struck a nerve, he smirked wider as he saw Wahlberg's unwavering calm, which only fueled his desire to push further. "Come on, Hollywood, show us what you've got!" King exclaimed, his voice dripping with sarcasm. The audience cheered and jeered in response, their anticipation mounting as they eagerly awaited a confrontation. Each word from King was calculated to unsettle Wahlberg, but the silence in Wahlberg's eyes was unnerving. There was a depth there that hinted at an inner fire waiting to ignite. As King continued his provocations, aiming to chip away at Wahlberg's composure, the atmosphere thickened with an electric charge that set the entire venue on edge. Fighters paused mid-stride, sensing the impending storm. Even the spectators found themselves holding their breath, caught between laughter and unease. King took a step closer to Wahlberg, leaning over the ropes with mock bravado. "Is this where you run out of steam, or will you finally show us why you're not just another washed-up actor?" But Wahlberg remained firmly rooted in place, maintaining an impenetrable facade. Unbeknownst to King, each insult fell flat against Wahlberg's collected demeanor. He had faced tougher adversities outside this arena and knew how to channel them into something more powerful than mere anger. With every passing moment, it became increasingly clear that his presence was more significant than anyone realized. A quiet storm gathering strength. As King continued to prance around, oblivious to the repercussions of underestimating Wahlberg, a growing sense of inevitability filled the air. The crowd's excitement shifted from raw enthusiasm to an undertone of apprehension. They sensed that soon enough, the facade would crumble. Choices made in this chaotic environment would lead to unexpected revelations and consequences for both men. A confrontation not merely between fighter and actor, but between bravado and true strength that would change lives within this gritty arena forever. The atmosphere brimmed with anticipation as King revved up the crowd, his insults flying like arrows aimed to pierce Wahlberg's composure. Just when it seemed Wahlberg would withstand the storm of mockery, King landed a cheap shot, a swift shove, followed by a second jab that caught Wahlberg off guard. The laughter erupted, but it quickly morphed into shock and disbelief. It was a blatant crossing of boundaries, and in that moment something shifted within Wahlberg. A fire ignited behind his calm facade. The crowd fell silent as King smirked, believing he had effectively portrayed Wahlberg as nothing more than a struggling relic. Yet beneath the surface of defeat lay resolve. Wahlberg straightened up, his expression transforming from passive observer to focused predator. The slight tremble of his hands dissipated as he centered himself, eyes locking onto King with newfound intensity. This wasn't just about pride anymore. It was about standing up against unwarranted aggressiveness. With an aura that rippled through the venue like electricity, Wahlberg stepped forward into the space where mockery had met challenge. He was ready to respond, not just as an actor or an aging star, but as a man who refused to be diminished by petty provocations. The whispers echoed through the crowd. Is he going to fight? King, however, remained oblivious to the change in tide and continued his antics, further underestimating Wahlberg's capabilities. The audience held their collective breath in preparation for what was about to unfold next. The stage had been set. Every jab thrown by King had only served to fan the flames of Wahlberg's inner strength. With each passing second, the tension dusted in sarcasm transformed into something far more serious. Wahlberg staggered no longer. Instead, he positioned himself ready for confrontation. An imposing figure now prepared to dismantle the bravado standing before him. It was clear. What began as intimidation would morph into a fierce showdown of wills and skills. What followed would reveal not only the depths of Wahlberg's determination, but also aim at exposing King for what he truly was. A braggart with fragile bravado who had finally pushed too far. As choices spiraled from both men towards fate's relentless grip, this would mark a turning point that would resonate long after the last punch was thrown in this high-stakes arena. As the tension between Wahlberg and King reached a boiling point, the fight that ensued was nothing short of explosive. The crowd, now muted in anticipation, watched as Wahlberg moved with grace and precision, contrasting sharply with King's brash and reckless style. With each calculated move, Wahlberg showcased his years of experience, not merely as an actor, but as someone who had faced real challenges. King lunged forward, throwing wild punches aimed to intimidate. But Wahlberg sidestepped with surprising agility, allowing King's momentum to carry him past. The audience gasped at the deftness. It wasn't just a fight. It was a performance where every motion spoke volumes about strategy and control. Wahlberg countered King's aggression with fluid movements, each jab and block executed with surgical precision. With a swift pivot, Wahlberg found the opening he needed, a right hook that caught King off guard and sent him stumbling back. The crowd erupted in astonishment, realizing they had underestimated Wahlberg's capabilities. He was not merely reacting, he was analyzing every position, every tactic King employed. Each time King attempted to regain his footing or launch another attack, Wahlberg was already there to thwart him. "Come on, is that all you've got?" King shouted defiantly, trying to rally himself as he fought against the rising tide of doubt within him. But Wahlberg's poise only deepened. He remained focused on dismantling not just King, but the very bravado that had long defined him in this gritty arena. As the fight unfolded in a carefully orchestrated dance of energy and resolve, Wahlberg took control of the ring, each punch landing with purpose. The audience felt the shift. What began as a spectacle of mockery had morphed into a demonstration of resilience and strength. With each blow exchanged, it became clear that Wahlberg was not only fighting for himself, but for something larger than pride. He was battling against the arrogance that sought to belittle him. In a stunning climax to their confrontation, Wahlberg unleashed a final series of strikes that left King reeling, exposing his vulnerabilities for all to see. As the dust settled and silence fell over the crowd, it became evident that this fight would alter not just their fates, but also reshape the very fabric of respect within this underground realm. What began as mere bravado crumbled into an unforgettable lesson on strength forged through determination and skill. As Wahlberg took control of the match, the atmosphere in the Fight Club underwent a dramatic transformation. Initially filled with skepticism and mockery, the audience began to shift their focus, their eyes widening as they witnessed Wahlberg's remarkable skill and composure. The tension that had once permeated the air was now charged with awe. The crowd was no longer laughing at him, but instead became captivated by his resolve and tactical prowess. With each calculated move, Wahlberg demonstrated a mastery that belied his earlier appearance. As he deftly avoided King's reckless attacks, it became clear that this was more than just a physical confrontation. It was a showcase of strategic brilliance. The patrons who had once jeered now leaned closer to the edge of their seats, whispering and exchanging glances that spoke volumes about their changing perceptions. "Who knew he had it in him?" one spectator murmured to another, barely able to contain their excitement. The fearsome reputation of King began to flicker under the spotlight of Wahlberg's newfound dominance. With every expertly executed jab and block, Wahlberg impressed upon them not only his ability to fight, but also his capacity for resilience in the face of adversity. As King struggled to regain control, the audience's anticipation swelled. They could feel the weight of Wahlberg's experience resonating throughout the venue. His every move seemed deliberate, carefully orchestrated to unravel the brashness of his opponent. The roar of enthusiasm grew louder, with cheers erupting spontaneously as Wahlberg landed precision strikes that shook King to his core. In that moment, something shifted within the crowd. What had begun as a spectacle of bravado transformed into a testament to true strength. They recognized that Wahlberg was not simply fighting for pride. He was reclaiming his dignity against someone who had underestimated him profoundly. As the fight raged on, the energy in the room became electric. No one could deny that they were witnessing a pivotal moment, the rise of an underdog challenging an overconfident brawler. With each punch landed and each strategic maneuver executed, Wahlberg's presence commanded respect, leaving an indelible mark on everyone witnessing this clash of wills. By the time the dust settled, it was evident that the Fight Club would never be the same again. They had witnessed not just a fight, but a transformative spectacle that redefined expectations and allegiances within their gritty world. As the fight heated up, hints of something darker began to surface amidst the physical struggle. Wahlberg, already alert to the nuances of combat, noticed something unsettling in King's demeanor. Each blow exchanged was accompanied by furtive glances towards the back of the crowd, indicating an unspoken connection that went beyond mere bravado and competitive spirit. It became apparent to Wahlberg that King was not merely a flashy fighter. He was entangled in a web that reached into more sinister territories. With each punch, whispers among the audience revealed unsettling tales, stories of gamblers with heavy debts, powerful figures lurking outside the ring, and shadowy affiliations that hinted at a world much grimmer than the fighting itself. The timing of King's rise in this scene coincided suspiciously with rumors of a crime syndicate operating within these underground venues. King, still focused on defeating Wahlberg, grew increasingly agitated as fears of getting exposed flickered in his eyes. He threw wild punches in a bid to regain dominance, but as he did so, Wahlberg sensed an opportunity. The crowd's energy shifted from mere entertainment to concern as they started catching snippets of what lay beneath King's bravado. "Who's pulling your strings?" Wahlberg taunted mid-fight, aiming not just to prove his worth but to dig beneath the surface. The response was immediate. King lost focus for a moment, revealing his vulnerability, a crack in his otherwise brash facade. Wahlberg's strategy evolved further as he observed those reactions. Each move he made was no longer limited to just defeating an opponent, but also aimed at exposing the truth about King and his unseen allies. He could feel the ripple effect through the crowd. Whispers swirled and concerns over loyalty began seeping into their chants for violence. Amid this chaotic exchange, Wahlberg realized he wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was battling for clarity, unraveling a thread that could lead him closer to his true target amidst this epidemic of corruption hidden within the Fight Club culture. In that moment of realization, Wahlberg's strikes gained purpose beyond mere physicality, a quest not only to overcome an opponent, but to shine a light on alliances steeped in darkness. As echoes of astonishment filled the air around them, it became clear. This confrontation could unravel more than just King's facade. It was shaping up to be a revelation larger than any single fight, exposing connections that would ultimately shake foundations both within and outside this gritty underworld. The climax of the fight reached its peak as Wahlberg, fueled by a combination of determination and clarity, positioned himself for the decisive blow. With the crowd on edge, their faces a mix of astonishment and anticipation. He could feel the weight of their doubt shattering with every move he made. King, now visibly rattled and desperate to regain his footing, swung wildly in an attempt to reassert his dominance. Yet Wahlberg was ready, having anticipated this very moment. As King lunged forward, Wahlberg sidestepped gracefully, letting momentum drive King past him. In one fluid motion, he pivoted and delivered a powerful right hook that landed squarely on King's cheek. The impact resonated through the chamber like thunder, sending shockwaves through the audience. Gasps echoed around the room as King stumbled back, clearly taken aback. For all his bravado and intimidation tactics, he was now exposed for what he truly was, a man reliant on bluster rather than skill. That single punch was not just a victory in the fight. It served as a profound metaphorical dismantling of King's carefully crafted persona. The crowd's reaction shifted from cheers for King to stunned silence as they processed the reality unfolding before them. Wahlberg stood tall in that moment, not merely as a fighter, but as a symbol of resilience battling against arrogance and deceit. "Who's really in control now?" Wahlberg exclaimed, his voice cutting through the tension as he faced King, who struggled to recover from the unexpected blow. This wasn't simply about winning. It was about exposing fraudulence ingrained within this underground culture. Wahlberg had stripped away the facade that had granted King power among them. In that instant, everything crystallized. Wahlberg realized that this fight transcended personal redemption. It was about reclaiming dignity not just for himself, but for anyone who dared challenge false bravado. With each follow-up strike that landed hard against King, it became clear this was more than just physical supremacy. It symbolized a battle against corruption itself. As Wahlberg delivered one last decisive blow, one that sent King crashing to the ground, the room erupted into cheers not only for his victory, but in reverence for what it represented. A profound shift in power dynamics within this gritty universe. That final moment underscored an unyielding truth. Strength came not just from physical prowess, but from authenticity and resolve. The Fight Club would never be the same. They had witnessed a transformation that rippled beyond mere combat. A revelation unveiling who truly deserved respect in their world. In the aftermath of the confrontation, the Fight Club was forever changed. The air, once thick with bravado and tension, now crackled with a newfound respect for Wahlberg, who had risen from an underdog to a figure of admiration. As the crowd dispersed, murmurs of disbelief and awe filled the space. No longer could they view King as invincible. The illusion had shattered, revealing him as a mere man whose reliance on intimidation had been exposed. Wahlberg's decisive victory not only diminished King's reputation, but also began to reshape the very culture within the Fight Club. Fighters who had once rallied behind King started to reassess their loyalties. They began to question whether strength was truly measured by loud boasts or by genuine skill and resilience. The event triggered discussions among fighters about what it meant to earn respect. Many realized that authenticity held more weight than mere bravado. As whispers of Wahlberg's prowess circulated among the fighters, a subtle shift in power dynamics became evident. Those who had previously feared King now looked to Wahlberg as a new standard of strength, a fighter who combined experience with integrity. He became a symbol of hope for those who had felt overshadowed by the harsh reality of underground fighting. The Fight Club began to feel less like a chaotic arena for brute force and more like a proving ground where true talent could shine through. Moreover, Wahlberg's victory prompted many fighters to reflect on their motivations. Some began to reconsider their own connections within the underground scene, questioning whether their alliances served them well or merely perpetuated a cycle of fear and deception. The fight had ignited conversations about accountability and honor that rippled through the ranks. In this transformed environment, Wahlberg emerged not just as a victor in a singular fight, but as a catalyst for change. A reminder that true strength lies not in bravado but in authenticity and purpose. The Fight Club would no longer be defined solely by its flashiness. It would evolve into a realm where respect was earned through skill and character. As Wahlberg departed from the ring, he left behind a legacy that would resonate deeply within this gritty world, ensuring that the lessons learned would linger long after the last punch was thrown, an enduring testament to the power of resilience in the face of adversity. As the dust settled from the fight, Wahlberg's victory over King opened a door to significant revelations regarding the darker undercurrents running through the underground Fight Club. The audience's energy shifted from exhilaration to curiosity as they began to piece together hints that had emerged during the clash. Wahlberg's sharp awareness had not only led him to question King's raw bravado, but also to consider who truly controlled the game behind the scenes. Whispers circulated among the fighters about King's connections to a notorious crime syndicate, rumored to have its fingers in various underground venues. The scars visible on King's skin were not just marks of past fights. They were reminders of his loyalty to figures who operated in shadows, enforcing unwritten rules and maintaining a grip over fighters through intimidation and manipulation. A pivotal moment came when Wahlberg overheard hushed voices in the crowd linking King to individuals notorious for their ruthless control over debt-ridden fighters. Each punch exchanged during the fight seemed to resonate with echoes of unspoken threats, the notion that failure could mean more than just losing a match. Renewed resolve surged through Wahlberg. He was now confronted by an added layer of complexity. Not only did he seek to expose corruption, but he also needed to understand how deeply entrenched these affiliations were within the culture he wished to change. In light of his victory, some fighters approached Wahlberg, their gazes shifting from admiration to apprehension. Those who had previously been followers of King began contemplating their own loyalties, questioning whether they too had unwittingly become pawns in a larger game. Wahlberg's triumph over intimidation began planting seeds of doubt among them concerning their own paths. Could they challenge the dangerous affiliations that loomed large in their lives? With this newfound awareness, Wahlberg found allies where he least expected them. Several fighters expressed a desire to turn against their former leaders, emulating Wahlberg's resilience and authenticity. They understood that in order to reclaim their dignity, they must confront those hidden hands pulling strings behind every decisive moment within this gritty sphere. As Wahlberg engaged more intimately with the fighters eager for transformation, it became clear that the confrontation wasn't just a turning point for him, but also for everyone impacted by King's affiliations. This brewing revolution hinted at potential future alliances and conflicts as Wahlberg harnessed his victory, not just as personal redemption, but as an opportunity to unite others against deeper threats lurking beneath the surface of their brutal world. In the wake of Wahlberg's stunning victory, the underground fight club stood on the precipice of transformation, echoing with the ramifications of one unexpected encounter. What had once been merely a brutal arena for physical domination now revealed layers of complexities that ran deeper than the surface bravado exhibited by fighters like King. The defeat of such a powerful figure exposed not only the cracks in King's facade, but also illuminated the dark affiliations he held with secretive crime syndicates that many had whispered about, but seldom confronted. As rumors circulated regarding these ties, a wave of apprehension and possibility washed over the fighters who had previously walked in fear of King. The new narrative began to take shape. A reckoning had arrived, and with Wahlberg as their unintentional champion, many began to envision a shift where empowerment could rise from vulnerability. Fighters who had witnessed Wahlberg dismantle intimidation realized they no longer needed to shy away from questioning hidden allegiances or challenging shady practices. Wahlberg, once an outsider searching for answers, found himself at the heart of a brewing revolution. Those who once followed King out of fear now approached Wahlberg seeking guidance. His victory emboldened them to reconsider their own roles and relationships within this gritty landscape. The facade under which they operated was starting to crumble. The aftermath also led Wahlberg to reflect on his original mission. His quest to find someone had taken on new dimensions. He understood now that that person was perhaps a catalyst for something greater, a movement aiming to expose and dismantle the very systems holding fighters captive. He began strategizing how best to unite those looking for authentic change, inviting them into a collective effort to expose corruption and redefine what strength meant within their community. This journey would not be without challenges. Wahlberg knew that aligning with those previously loyal to King would draw scrutiny from his former allies in the criminal underbelly of the fight scene. Future conflicts loomed on the horizon, but he felt resolute. The power dynamics were shifting toward authenticity, and he was determined to guide others toward reclaiming their dignity. As this pivotal chapter unfolded within the Fight Club, it became evident that one unexpected encounter could alter perceptions of power and respect dramatically. With Wahlberg at the forefront, there lay potential for both alliances and conflicts that would reshape the very fabric of their underground world, pushing them toward a future where true fighters would rise not merely from physical prowess, but from genuine connection and integrity.